Cool. I'm happy to go ahead and get started. I know with it being the day before Thanksgiving and a lot of folks in the US not expecting a huge attendance today. All right. So in terms of outstanding RFCs, I'll give folks 1 more minute to join. So in terms of outstanding RFCs, I'm going to skip over the draft ones. I don't think we're going to have any meaningful conversation today with this group on those RFCs, but they are still there. And, we still want to kind of keep chipping away at those. That's the decoupling dependencies and the multi-arch stuff. Next up, we have this Oracle GraalVM build pack. Last update from this. We have quite a while ago, but we got some approvals from Dan Makusa. So maybe we should tag the Java folks, make sure that everyone who needs to review it has reviewed it, and then we can go ahead and merge it, it looks like. I know Dan's a Java maintainer. Might need 1 or 2 more eyes on this from the Java folks. Then we have an RFC about standardizing Paketo dependency metadata format. This spun out of the larger one around decoupling dependencies. And the latest update here, we got some outstanding conversation from a couple of weeks ago. I think this is scanning through this. It looks like it's pretty unresolved right now. So Forrest made some changes, but Forrest is not here to discuss this. Neither is basically anyone else, apart from, well, not really anyone else here today. So I'm going to skip over that one as well, unless anyone wants to kind of flag anything on it. All right. Add RFC to discourage use of all Bionic builders. So yeah, this is an interesting one. We kind of talked about this a little bit like a couple of weeks ago. In summary, there's some concern from some of our community members that the fact that the Bionic builders are still out there and defaulting by some third-party systems like Spring Boot, but not getting updates, because we're not publishing them because it was end of life back in May. There's some concern that that's, not a great situation. This RFC was sort of talking about making it a bit more explicit, like removing tags, or at least, like making it very clear that this is a problem. Out of this, we spun out a blog post on the Paketo webpage, basically saying like Bionic builders are unsupported, and we're going to be doing some sort of brownouts where we're going to take them offline for a short amount of time. I personally, as a builders maintainer, I would like to see what the response to that is before making any further decisions on this RFC. I'd like to see, does the brownout force enough people on this, especially on the Spring Boot side? Does it kind of like give people that forcing function to migrate to Jammy? Does it not? Do we need to do anything else? Kind of want to see how that lands. Additionally, I think we also agreed, and maybe in this RFC, that we were going to, maybe it's not, maybe we haven't decided fully yet, but I think there was some conversation about like basically replacing the latest tag with some sort of like unsafe tag permanently, so that latest would be broken, and if you need the Bionic builder, you'd have to reference it via this like unsafe tag, which is a very clear signal to a human that that's not really desired behavior. I don't think that actually, maybe that happened. Let's see real quick. Blog. Did we actually decide to do that? I'll try and be quick. Nobody wants to watch me read a blog post. Yeah, okay. When the brownout is over, we did decide that we're going to switch to these unsafe tags. So all that being said, like as a builders maintainer, I kind of want to wait and see on this RFC. And then I'll kind of either, weigh in one way or the other, depending on people's response to the brownout. Are there any other builders maintainers or interested parties who want to talk about this RFC today?
No, but thank you for the summary, because I've not been keeping super up to date with blog posts and everything. So appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Really, thanks to Dan Makusa, who spearheaded that entire thing, while the rest of us were sitting around deciding whether or not to like do something. Dan was like, how about we do something in 48 hours from now? So yeah, I know Dan doesn't really have a chance to join these meetings, but it's definitely some kudos to him for kind of just like actioning on that situation. Maybe he'll see this in the video. Okay, so that takes us to the end of the outstanding RFCs. Unless there's any other questions on RFCs, I'm going to move to the CMB updates and questions section. Okay, dokes. So in terms of CMB updates and questions, I might have one. I'm not sure if we discussed it last week, but the pack CLI like 0.30.0 introduced some breaking changes, which were fixed in 0.32.1. So specifically, there was some issue around deciding on the platform for daemon images. I forget which way around it was. One of the two types of images they hadn't sort of tested with this new feature, and it pretty much broke all of the Paketo build packs, both for us as Paketo maintainers, but also for the community at large. They fixed that pretty rapidly in 0.32.1. So anyone who ran into that should be able to upgrade and no longer see that issue with the platform mismatch. Any other CMB updates, questions, thoughts, comments? Alrighty. Got some real-time updates going in for project update.
Yeah, I thought I'd just like add that on the UBI Node.js front, we continue to work through all the integration tests for these sub build packs. So like we're running the npm install integration tests, the yarn install, all those, finding some issues which we're addressing, and there's a bunch of open PRs that would be great to get landed to address those. And you know, the final, once we address the issues, the final PR is to actually add the UBI stack for testing of those. And I think it's already happened for Yarn, which is great. And so that's kind of what our current focus is working through. And it's proved to be quite useful because those tests have found some edge cases where things didn't work or we had to do things differently. So it's great to have all that testing in place and be able to just add on to it.
Yeah, that's great. Integration testing is super important for stuff like this. It's really easy to kind of get it all working at the unit test level and then realize you missed like something pretty substantial. So yeah, integration tests at the stack level, super helpful. Are there the PRs that you mentioned that are outstanding off the top of your head? Do you know which repos they're in, or should we just go kind of looking for them?
I think Costas was gonna like post in the channels, but there would be like in the, I think the extension, the stack, like if you go into the UBI, how about I'll go find them and post post that for you. We'll make sure that like, does it work in, what's the best way? We could post them in the Slack channels, or I could send them some other way, like whatever is the easiest for people.
Yeah, I think Slack is something that the trainers generally are responsive to. So yeah, I know. Speaking as like the maintainer of multiple language families, Slacks, builders, etc. Like I definitely respond way better to at builders in the builders channel than I do like I don't remember from these meetings, right? When someone says, "Hey, review my PR," like I don't remember that. But if someone tags me in Slack, I'll see it.
Yeah, Costas was going to post in Slack like I was talking to him about the 3 different ones yesterday. He's going to post the list of the ones we have in each of the right places, hopefully.
Yeah. Also, not to like make this all about me and my notification system, but like I subscribe to basically every Paketo repo. And so my GitHub notifications aren't very helpful because I get probably like order of 100 a day. So if someone tags me in the middle of that, like I'm never going to see it. Whereas if you're like, hey, this PR has been open for like 3 days and I need a review, and you put it in Slack, like I would definitely see that.
No, I totally understand, because like for the Node project, there's like a gazillion notifications. So yeah, it makes it really hard.
Sure. Any other project updates from other language families? Okay, notes. Sounds like we're moving on to the open mic questions and discussion topics. Got one item here so far. 24 Ubuntu 24.04 roadmap and discussion.
Yeah, and that came from the standard agenda.
The anonymous FAQ submission. Cool. So speaking as a Stacks maintainer, I can say that I haven't really put much thought into Ubuntu 24.04. Based on Ubuntu's numbering system, 24.04 should be an LTS. So we probably would want to start incorporating this in the Paketo ecosystem, given that we have historically tried to target LTS versions. We did skip 20.04, so we went from 18 to 22, and that was like pretty painful. So it might be in our interests to sort of get 24.04 working. I will say off the top of my head, I'm assuming that half language families or three-quarter language families tend to just pull dependencies from upstream. So that should just work pretty easily. But then the other quarter, I think, have to do like compilation, and that could be like a pretty long-tailed effort. But I'm kind of just like spitballing based on seeing this for the first time. I don't think there's any concrete roadmap or any plans. I also haven't heard any feedback either about, supporting this.
There was a pretty lengthy discussion a couple meetings ago, I think, about this. I think the name escapes me. I want to say Dwayne, potentially, but folks were really strongly of the opinion that we should get out ahead of this, Jan included. So I think it's on folks' radar, and I think this item was added as like a standing item so that we continue to talk about this. So I guess it's serving its purpose now.
That's what I get for missing last week's meeting, and like all the context that you all had. And also, I'm obviously never going to watch the replays. So cool, thank you for that. That's helpful context. Great. So I guess there was a lengthy discussion. Sounds like people are in favor. The community would like to see this. As a stacks maintainer, I have no objections. It's fairly low lift as a stacks maintainer to kind of make more Ubuntu stacks. Assuming that they all look the same, like they all have USNs and everything, which I think they will. It's pretty much just like making a repository and copy and paste, and then the automation takes care of the rest. So making the stacks shouldn't be that hard, and should be, something we can get started on at any point. I think I would still want to get feedback from the community about like prioritization of language family ordering. Like, are we looking for, well, Tim, you're about to unmute. Do we already have that prioritization as well? No. Okay. Yeah, it's always helpful to know sort of like where that feedback's coming from. Is it from like Java consumers? Is it from like someone wanting to use like Python with this like open AI machine learning data science library that we already don't currently support? And so that would be a huge lift, this kind of understanding the order of operations, because it took us a long time to get Jammy support. I'm optimistic that we could do whatever 24.04 is, I don't even know its name, faster. But I also wouldn't want to spend lots of time and effort doing something that wasn't what the community was looking for. At least, prioritizing the wrong thing first.
Yeah, I think it will be so much easier this time because we do have like most of the automation in place to support multiple stacks and like do the compilation across, different stacks that we support. So I think it will be easier. And I think that also will give a bigger landing point for people in the community who want this to land to contribute themselves, because they won't be building out like all this like custom automation to support a second stack because we already have it.
Yeah. I think, just kind of thinking off the top of my head here, I think the way as a stacks maintainer I'd like to approach is I would like to, I'm an engineer, right? I prefer like doing stuff rather than writing RFCs. So I would prefer to just kind of like stamp out some CI to sort of build some like beta, let's call it, or even alpha versions of the stacks. And then maybe it would be good to create an RFC mostly around like what libraries we want in the stacks, because that was a pain point in the Jammy migration. We like wanted to remove Python and Ruby, and then we sort of like never did. And so I think there's probably value in having an RFC, at least to kind of have people be like, yes, do exactly the same thing you did before, or like, hey, what about XYZ? But I also think it'd be helpful to kind of get the stacks out there so people can try them. And the easiest way to do that is just to spin up the automation to do it.
Yeah, we should put something in Paketo community to start releasing stuff, and then we'll have like an easier way to remove packages down the line once
Yeah.
we move it into the like proper project.
Yeah, we could do community, or we could even just put it in Buildpacks and just keep the numbering system like very much like 0.0.17, and it would be very clear. And we also not going to, if we're not going to include it in builders or like put it in the build pack dependency compatibility in each build pack, like it's kind of doesn't really matter, right? Like it's not GA'd until it's all hooked up and glued together. My slight concern with Paketo community is just there's a lot of like I don't know how many hard-coded references there are to Paketo build packs in our like CI system. So I would worry a little bit about like if we did it in community first, would it just work out the box? And then when we migrate it, would it just work after we migrate it, or would it need like extra work? It's mostly just pragmatic. I have no philosophical objection to putting in community first. Okay. So it sounds like there was a lot of community like discussion last week and some feedback and some, desire to see this moving forward. Any reason not to move forward on it, like start stamping out stacks? Was there any, I mean, like I said, I wasn't here last week. Was there any like strong desire to have like a month of RFC and discussions and working group meetings beforehand? Cool. All right. So maybe in the next few weeks, we can, if we have some downtime, we can start spinning up some 2404 stacks.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really knew the way forward specifically. Um there was, I think everything was still pretty vague in the discussion. So but
Okay.
Sean was there, so maybe he might have something to say as well. We were just talking about the Ubuntu 24.04 discussion that was had a couple of meetings ago, maybe.
Yeah. Welcome, Dishon. Give you a minute to get your audio set up. While we're waiting, I was just seeing if I could find the name of 2404, and it's called, I'm just going to paste this in. I'm not even going to say it out loud. I paste that without formatting instead. Noble Numbat. Yeah, I'm not offering any comment on that. I might just refer to it as 2404. Anyway, so to Tim, to kind of address what you were touching on, I think in my mind, the way that we would move forward is we would start by making some stacks, possibly some build packless builders, just to kind of make it easy for folks to try out. And then that gives people like a point where they can just take the stack and they don't have to worry about how it was built. And then they can test it with build packs. And, we can sort of start to learn like what the existing compatibility is, what the edges are, what libraries we might want to add or remove while we're still kind of in like an alpha mode. And then okay, I kind of, like I said earlier, I kind of expect about half or 3/4 of the build packs to just work. From the build pack perspective, right? Like the upstream library may not yet have compatibility with 2404, but like if we're just downloading it, it's kind of like no change to the build pack, right? And then the other quarter will probably require like a little bit of thinking, like a no Python where we compile from source. That one's going to like require some work. And then, yeah, that'll give us like a path forward for language families to kind of test out, kick the tires, get a sense of like, does the Go build pack work out of the box with 2404? And then I think at that point, when we have a majority or a quorum of build packs with compatibility, we can GA it, right? We can kind of stand behind it to the same level we do for the rest of them. And I guess I also wouldn't GA it before Ubuntu officially GAs it upstream, right? Like that would be stupid for us to do that. But assuming they're targeting April based on the timing of the releases, then that gives us a good like 5 months to kind of kick the tires. And it seems like there's a reasonable chance we could have like compatibility out the door pretty quickly after it's released upstream.
Yeah, I like it. I just like the idea of looking forward. Um, uh, and I'm just using the kind of other reference points. The Spring Boot 3.2 is coming out on Thursday, and one of our downstream providers has already got their release, their recipes that are ready to adopt and migrate things to Spring Boot 3.2 before it comes out. Right? What a great position to be in, and that would be great for like, hey, 2404 is out, and we've been testing it already, and here's some things for you to try, whether it's GA or not. At least to be ready on that announcement, we can kind of carry off of that momentum of their announcement.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
like Sophie said, we spent a lot of time building out the automation for the jammy stacks, and we're pretty happy with it. So it should be fairly easy to stamp out the automation for future Ubuntu stacks. For what it's worth, I did once prototype making a 2004 focal stack using the existing automation, and it did just work. I didn't really pursue it because there wasn't a lot of bandwidth to kind of add another stack at that point. But I think the automation, unless there's something crazy different about 2404, I would expect the automation to just kind of work.
Wonderful. Yeah, and the thing is, if we're doing that early ahead of time, we can go ask for help, right? Like if it's me, right? If somebody's asking to try out our newest stuff that we're early access releasing, and they're wanting to adopt it, yeah, I'm like, yeah, you can have my attention. So I think this is a great plan, to be honest. The more I think about it, right? Software is moving fast, and I'm on the side of let's adopt early. Take these small changes, adopt early, so we can never be caught behind, never be caught in a brownout situation. If we can keep our community, looking forward and adopting new releases, yeah, we'll be in great shape.
Agreed. Cool. Anything else on Ubuntu 2404? All right. And then any other, oh, go ahead.
He said, I'm all smiles. That I'm just excited.
Good. And then any other open mic questions, discussion topics? There wasn't anything on the board. Anything anyone else wants to add?
We did get someone asking for an R build pack yesterday. And no, I had suggested that they start a discussion on the org, and I saw that you, Rob, and Dan responded to that discussion. So it was more to track. I suggested that more to track the demand for support for R. So I don't really expect there to be any actionable steps right now for any of us. But hopefully the person who opened it will take the advice of Dan and try it out for themselves. But if not, then we'll see in the next few months. I think it's been broached before, but there's never been enough critical mass behind demand for it. So
I think it's safe to say that'll continue to increase just with my little my signals. I think that the demand is going to increase for that as well. So yeah, would you mind pasting a link, or I'll find it? Never mind. I can find it.
sure, I can add to the doc.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Tim. All right. Any other open mic questions, discussion topics, or I guess any thoughts on the R build pack? All right. If you have any thoughts, feel free to add them to discussion so that we have a record. And then any other open mic questions, discussion topics? I have one very off-topic question for Deshaun. Do you have a webcam that tracks your face as you move?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I have never seen such technology.
That is the Insta360, and it's not my favorite. So I switched, but yeah, it works. It's nice. it's got a decent picture, and it's the nice thing about it. It's small, so I can like take it with me on the road. But yeah, it's a pretty fancy little camera.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. I was like thinking for a second you were like manually controlling it, and I was like, no, that doesn't make any sense. No, we have image recognition. This is going to be automatic. Cool. All right. Sounds like there's no other open mic questions, discussion topics, which brings us to the end of our agenda. Any last minute questions, burning items? All right.
Happy to-
And we'll see you all probably sometime next week.
Bye.